Well, President Trump just pulled off a masterstroke in ending the war in Ukraine, as he promised to do, by bypassing the people who wanted the war, namely Zelensky and NATO and Western leaders. So they all have egg on their face. So now we'll get to the phone call between Trump and Putin in a minute. But first, NATO is having to walk back any idea of having corrupt Ukraine join the alliance. Here is Mark Rutte eating all those big promises he made about the continued war in Ukraine. Listen.
Well, listen, in Washington again, NATO committed to future NATO membership for Ukraine. But it has never been agreed that whenever peace talks would start, that peace talks would end anyway and always and definitely with NATO membership. That has never been agreed. It could be, but it never was that clearly stated. What I consistently have said is we have to make sure that whatever the outcome is, we have to make sure that Vladimir Putin will never, ever try again to attack.
Well, that was not Zelensky's impression. So then we've been leading that fool on for a really long time, anyone who is in NATO. Remember when Rutte took over NATO after being ousted as the leader of the Netherlands? He told the world that Zelensky said that he thought, hey, Rutte's my boy, and that he would have Ukraine's back no matter what. Remember this headline? Also, 1 year ago, in February of 2024, Rutte spoke at the Munich Security Conference and said, hey, we don't have to really worry about President Trump. We should all just calm down. Remember this headline? Well, now he's eating crow too, because the peace deal is moving forward without his input, without Zelensky's input. President Trump just yesterday was asked why Zelensky was not a major player in the deal. And here's what he had to say. Truth.
Why did you decide to provide support to Ukraine? Would you support Zelensky ceding territory or exchanging territory in any agreement to end the war?
Well, he's going to have to do what he has to do, but you know, his poll numbers aren't particularly great, to put it mildly. He's got a country where, you know, it's been savaged and attacked, and he's got an army that's been very, very brave, actually, despite the fact that, you know, we've given him, in my opinion, $350 billion. That's what the real number is. You don't hear that number. And Europe has given, in my opinion, $100 billion.
Okay, I'm freaking out that he said that, because he knows Zelensky does not represent the Ukrainian people. He's a dictator, kept himself in power. The Ukrainian people have not had a choice but to continue the war that Zelensky himself wanted. Well, now NATO is saying they will continue to support Ukraine. Here's this brave talk on X. But if they're not careful, they're going to find themselves on the business end of an executive order where the U.S. leaves NATO like they left the WHO. And in fact, Elon Musk has already put that on the table, where he said earlier this week that NATO needs an overhaul.
Yeah, more than an overhaul. They need to be completely,
to put it lightly,
defunded by us. And as Colonel McGregor on our show has said many times, I mean, they need to be disbanded. I mean, they're not a defensive organization at all. They are an offensive organization. Moving right up to Russia's border. So now to this phone call. So let's talk about this. President Trump spoke at length with Putin yesterday. The two had a very friendly phone call. Here's what Trump said he talked about. Here's the readout from this. He said, I just had a lengthy, highly productive phone call with President Putin of Russia. We discussed Ukraine, Middle East energy, artificial intelligence, the power of the dollar, various other subjects. We both reflected on the great history of our nations. And I can't believe he actually said this. He says, and the fact that we fought so successfully together in World War II. Remembering that Russia lost tens of millions of people, and we likewise lost so many. We each talked about the strengths of our respective nations, great benefit we will someday have in working together. But first, as we both agreed, we want to stop the millions of deaths taking place in the war with Russia and Ukraine. And he loved my version motto of common sense. And we need to work closely together to make this thing end. We're going to begin by calling President Zelensky of Ukraine to inform him of the conversation. And then, of course, he's going to start pushing towards peace. So he thanks him for his time and effort on this. And then Putin even invited Trump and Xi Jinping to come to Moscow for the Victory Day celebrations in May, which would be amazing to see Trump in Moscow celebrating the defeat of Nazism. Like, can you imagine that? Anyway.
Well, no, because Ukraine has pushed Russia out of that history.
Oh, right.
We are no longer, during the Biden years, we were not supposed to talk about how we were allies with Russia in order to defeat the Nazis.
Yeah, we were not allowed to talk about the 23 million Russians who died fighting Hitler. You can't mention that. You can't talk about
Zelensky even
that.
moved Victory Day off the day that Russia celebrated it to pretend they don't exist. It has been an Orwellian reality. Go ahead. Sorry, I'm screaming.
So Sergei Lavrov, of course, Sergei, the Russian foreign minister, said that this is exactly how you should talk to Russia and have this sort of friendly conversation. Basically slammed Biden. Watch.
What struck me was that now the entire world is in a state of shock, viewing the phone conversation and the news about it as something extraordinary. This shows to what extent the staff of the Biden administration, led by their president and their European satellites, have abandoned dialogue and diplomacy as a method of communication with the outside world, opting instead for threats, sanctions, and the arming of the regime in Kiev to wage war against the Russian Federation.
So that's how you talk to Russia. But the German press is freaking out. Olaf Scholz is freaking out. You see the full meltdown right now in Berlin. So you have Olaf Scholz. We'll get to his part in a second. But this is how the German media was playing it last night, talking about the threat and how this is going to lead to the destruction of Europe if we have peace in Ukraine. Watch.
Ja, hier ist man schon irritiert, dass es zu einem Telefonat zwischen Trump und Putin kommen würde. Das hatte man kurz vorher erfahren. Dass dabei aber schon über den Beginn von Verhandlungen gesprochen oder diese auf jeden Fall bekannt gegeben würden, das hat alle überrascht. Und zwar genau in dem Moment, als das Treffen zu Ende ging und niemand mehr reagieren konnte. Das verstärkt die Sorge, dass sich Trump und Putin über die Köpfe der Ukrainer und der Europäer hinweg verständigen könnte. Dabei hatte der neue US-Verteidigungsminister Pete Hegseth hier bei seinem Antrittsbesuch schon harte Ansagen an die Ukrainer gemacht. Wie immer die Sicherheitsgarantien einmal aussehen, US-Truppen würden sich nicht in der Ukraine daran beteiligen.
So what's important to understand, so they're having this big security conference, of course, in Munich. And so they're all getting together. This is, this is where the masterstroke comes from Trump. You know, I'm critical of Trump on a lot of issues, particularly Israel and his AI dog and pony show a few weeks ago. But on this, the fact that they held this diplomatic talk, Putin and Trump did, right ahead of the Munich Security Conference, which was going to push for an increase in the war in Ukraine and calling on more money and more arms to go in so more Ukrainians could die. Like, this was a masterstroke. He totally just undercut them. He totally just punched them right in the balls is basically what he did. And that's why Germans are so upset today about this. And it was even called a betrayal. One of the reporters asked Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, who's there, this sounds like a betrayal. This is a betrayal of Europe. This is a betrayal of NATO. And listen to Pete's response.
Well, that's your language, not mine. Certainly not a betrayal. As I said to our allies yesterday, we recognize the incredible commitment that has been made over many years. And no country, as the President Trump has pointed out, has made a larger commitment to the Ukrainian mission than the United States of America, north of $300 billion. So the United States has invested in stabilizing those front lines after the aggression of Russia. There is no betrayal there. There is a recognition that the whole world and the United States is invested and interested in peace, a negotiated peace.
So what's interesting that Pete Hegseth just said there is the same thing that President Trump just said yesterday, which is that the number is over $300 billion that we've given to Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Now, you know, the number had been floated around $170 billion, all those. No, it's over $300 billion.
Well, this is something that you did a piece on 2 years ago when you looked at outside of the congressional bills, aid bills to Ukraine, that there were also just surreptitiously military contracts that went directly to Ukraine.
Right. So, yeah, if you add it up, if you just got the main baseline number that they were telling you, it was a lie, because all of the hidden money that was floating in on the sides, that was floating in, lining these contractors' pockets, the money laundering scheme into Ukraine, was massive. So Olaf Scholz freaking out today, and he declared a state of emergency over Trump meeting with Putin to end the war. I love watching Olaf Scholz cry. Watch.
Der Bundestag sollte schnellstmöglich einen Beschluss fassen, wonach der Krieg in der Ukraine und seine schwerwiegenden Folgen für die Sicherheit Deutschlands und Europas als Notlage.
We don't have subtitles on this. Clayton, translate for us.
He's basically saying, I'm a little bitch. Oh, you can keep playing. He's like basically saying, I'm a little bitch.
Yeah.
Das führt dazu, dass unsere
Ich habe einen kleinen
die heute
Schlong.
wichtiger ist, denn nicht länger zu Lasten der anderen Aufgaben geht, die unser Staat.
And we're gonna have a national state of emergency because of Putin and Trump having this meeting together.
Because we wanted war, and Trump gave that the Stinkefinger, which is the middle finger. We're getting the Stinkefinger. And so we wanted a war. We wanted to continue to collapse our own economy. And we wanted Ukrainians to keep dying and to pretend that we think Russia is going to take over the continent.
Yeah.
And that plan has been scheissed.
Scheissed, yeah. Darf ich bitte meinen Bleistift spitzen? So anyway, not everyone is happy about this. Olaf Scholz is crying about it. The warmongers who wanted this to continue, for young Ukrainian men to be killed. They want every Ukrainian child to be killed in this senseless war. And so not everyone is happy about this. In fact, Yosemite Sam, John Bolton, you know Yosemite Sam, there he is in the center, with the warmongering John Bolton, who tried to run for president. Sorry. He tried to run for president.
Where would we be? We
Can
would
you imagine.
No, we would be in a post-apocalyptic
We would
nuclear
be at war with everybody.
Everybody.
So Yosemite Sam was on his favorite show last night, CNN. And here's what he had to say. He basically said that this is a surrender to Putin by pushing for peace. This is you're surrendering to Putin. Listen.
You've previously said that you believe Putin sees Trump as what you described as an easy mark. You were there for their first meeting in Helsinki. What are your expectations for this one?
Well, I don't have any expectations anymore. I think we know exactly what's going to happen. President Trump has effectively surrendered to Putin before the negotiations have even begun.
You surrendered. You little weasel. You've surrendered. Yosemite Sam. So, I love Greg Orton says, Redacted are covert Nazis.
Oh, yeah. We've just celebrated the downfall of the Nazis.
We just praised. Yeah, we're the furthest thing from socialists. You want to look to Nazis, look to the socialists in Washington.
We literally
DC.
have a shirt in our store that says communism equals starvation. Do you know what the Socialist Party stood for?
We got our channel banned when we called out the Nazi Azov battalion in Ukraine. Like, we got blocked on YouTube as a result of calling attention to that because of the deep state that didn't like us talking about that 2 years ago. So that's pretty funny. That's pretty good. The Estonian parliamentary leader also called this deal a sad day. So this meeting between Putin, here's Marco Michelson. Today we would go down in history as a dark day for Europe. It now depends on European leaders to finally recognize that we must take our fate into our own hands right now. Oh, you mean like you did with your Nord Stream pipeline destruction of that you carried out on yourselves?
Yeah.
The destruction of Europe has been done by you.
Let me just tell you this. I mean, I don't know everything, but I'm pretty sure that when you meet your maker at the end of your life and you have to answer for the fact that you thought peace was a dark day, you're not going to have much to go on. No matter what higher power you're answering to. If you think peace is a sad day, you're probably on the wrong side of history.
I mean...
and let me just, let's just play this out as if we were one of the people like Colonel McGregor on our show. Okay, Europe is now going to lead this war. Europe's going to fund it without the United States. Europe is going to prop up Zelensky. That's not going to last. That's based on air. That's going to fall through like this. The euro will plummet. And you'll have nothing left. So,
I mean, when you meet your maker and you go through that soul review process, you can be like, I was very pro-war,
Yeah, I don't think that's not going to go over well. That's sort of how I live my life.
Go ahead, Philip.
I can't think of a single war. I'm trying to think through history. I can't think of a single war that ended with the absolute annihilation of all of your enemy. Every single war has ended with peace. That's how it works. That's how you get wars to stop.
Yeah.
Yes, not everyone gets what they want. But I have to say this in the Russia situation right now, after 10 years of a genocide that Ukrainians carried out against ethnic Russians in what was Eastern Ukraine, the Russians are going to get everything they want. It seems like mostly they are because they wanted that war to stop. They wanted the genocide to stop. The ethnic Russians who were in Donbass and Donetsk and those areas from being slaughtered every day, children on their way to school in parks being killed with pedal mines, the horrific stuff, no military targets, just hitting kids. It was a genocide by all accounts. So Russia, we've talked, Scott Ritter on our show, Colonel McGregor, many military and analysts have said this war will end on Russia's terms, not Ukraine's. And that seems to be what's unfolding because they're like, we're not even going to have Zelensky at the peace talks.
Right.
Like, we don't really care what that little troll has to say.
And I didn't bring the graphic, but we could rewind the clock because Time magazine in 2015 published the acknowledgement that the people in Eastern Ukraine were asking Russia to come and take them over. So for over 10 years now, the Western media knew that until it became inconvenient to know that. And those people did, in fact, ask Russia to come in and protect them from continued attacks from Ukraine. They voted in order to do so. Over 80%, most regions over 90% voted because that's what they've been wanting all along. And so the Western press is telling you don't know what's best for you. That's not what you wanted. You have not been tortured. They're liars. They're liars.
Tired of tech companies selling your sensitive data and forcing you to deal with AI chatbots for support? Allow us to unburden you by what has been. With Bunker. Bunker is a family-owned U.S.-based business committed to upholding the people's rights to the fullest extent as outlined in the U.S. Constitution and provided by international law. The company offers a fast-growing app for securing messaging, cloud storage, password management, and notes. Unlike mainstream messengers, which expose you to scams, Bunker eliminates criminal activities and fraud from its network. Bunker customers take their lives seriously and include professional athletes, business owners, journalists, law enforcement agents, and it'll stop and protect you from identity theft, fraud, imposters, and surveillance. Download Bunker right now from the App Store or the Google Play Store, or visit their website. Just go to bunker.life and you'll get 25% off if you use the code Redacted. Protect what matters most. Download Bunker today. So Doge continues to uncover shocking payments to media organizations, including Reuters. Thomson Reuters organization.
Now, of course, we know Reuters is corrupt. They embedded with the SBU unit of Ukraine and told us lies about the war there. They made things up. They reported things that we now know to be untrue. They still should not be forgiven for weapons of mass destruction lies that led us to the war with Iraq. But here is what was revealed about them this week. They posted this. Musk's Doge cuts based more on political ideology than real cost savings so far. So see how the media is really trying to acknowledge the reality that we've been funneling taxpayer money into things the American people do not support. And they're having to do this mental gymnastics to look away from what is actually being revealed, to which Elon Musk said this: I wonder how much money Reuters is getting from the government. Let's find out. Well, here, right on cue, is an answer. And in fact, I want to point out that Mike Benz pointed this out way before just this month, this revelation. But let's deal with what we're doing right now. So here is the revelation that Doge investigations reveal mysterious Defense Department payments to Reuters from 2018 to 2022. Should be noted, who was a president in 2018? President Trump. So this was not just a Biden era initiative. In fact, it's been going on for a long time. And in fact, let's look at even just one of them that we can find on USA Spending. Take a look at this next graphic. Look at the bottom, what they're being paid for. Active social engineering defense, large-scale social deception. Why would you put that on your contract? Why would you want that?
Can you imagine that that's on your contract? Okay, we want you to be involved in social engineering and lie and deception through your news publications.
Right.
Let's just put that right on the contract, I guess, for accounting purposes.
That's a tag in your medical expenses, health and beauty.
Donald Trump, flipped out about this, of course. President Trump flipped out, says demands that Reuters now return the $9 million payment from the Pentagon for the social deception study. And apparently this actually went back to 2018. So when President Trump was in office, they were doing all of this.
Yeah.
And it continued all the way through, concluded in 2022.
Well, we know the deep state was still operating under President Trump in his first administration. I don't even want to use past tense because we don't know how much power they still retain. The deep state is not gone. They are still here.
No.
But is it any wonder then that Reuters won a Pulitzer in 2024 for a piece targeting Elon Musk? Here they are announcing their Pulitzer for the Musk Industrial Complex. And again, this is another thing that State Department whistleblower Mike Benz was warning about before there was a Doge. Let's give him, as we regularly do, and I told you so. See the date stamp here, December 2024, where he was warning about all the Reuters contracts. And again, it's been going on far longer than just the Biden administration. So this is, what's the word I want to use? This is integrated, well integrated.
Oh, absolutely. It's fully integrated into the government. And so right now is this. The first sanctuary city for transgender people is now a thing. How many of you want to move to Worcester, Massachusetts? They voted during a city council meeting to become a sanctuary city for transgender and gender diverse people.
Now, let me remind you that the issue here is not being transgender. No state bans anyone from being transgender. You can do that all you want. You can dress as the opposite sex all you want. The issue here is children. What they're taking aim at is new laws that prevent sex changes for children. But watch these adults pretend they are a targeted group. What you're seeing here is self-selection into an oppressed group.
Yeah, so activists said they will ignore any state or federal laws that try to stop genital mutilation, cross-sex hormones, or puberty blockers.
For children. They can still do it to themselves if they are adults.
In other words, if the law says no chopping off of penises, they don't care. They're going to do it anyway.
Of minors. The adults can chop off their penis in any state.
So the city council meeting before the vote was shocking. Take a look at this.
I need the city to protect me because the federal government won't. And if you think you're afraid of Trump, you should see how afraid of Trump I am.
Can you wrap up, please?
Yes, I can. If you say that you're afraid of Trump and that's why you don't want the city to be a safe space for trans people, you better prepare for trans people to make this a very unsafe space.
I'm shaking right now.
You're threatening violence there. Go ahead. You can keep playing that. I'm sorry.
I don't want to be here.
Up,
I'm sorry. Am I taking too long pleading for my life?
You remembered how many children I have and that 2 of them are trans.
I speak as both the B and the T in the LGBT.
I'm multiply disabled. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder that causes me immense physical pain.
Okay. Again, I just want to make it clear. All of those people can do anything they want to themselves. They cannot, in most states now, use the bathroom that they were not assigned at birth for the gender that they self-select into. And they cannot do it to children. But otherwise, they can do that in public in every state. So they are pretending that they are oppressed, and they're not. What they're advocating is the right to do it to children.
So these pro-trans activists said that anyone who is opposed to this is similar to a Nazi. Okay. And so if you're opposed to this, then you're a Nazi, apparently. And the activists said they would make the town a very unsafe space if they don't get their way, sort of attacking us. Just a reminder, here's the lieutenant governor of Minnesota. I mean, look at that shirt. Protect trans kids with a knife. Like, how you're going to protect trans kids with a knife? How? By using the knife to chop off their genitals? That's how you protect them? Like, imagine being the lieutenant governor of Minnesota. Like, oh my God. Tim Walz's state, we dodged a bullet there for sure.
Do you think there were activists like this that opposed getting rid of lobotomies? They're like, we want a lobotomy state that is safe for us to go get lobotomies.
Safe for eugenics. Safe for these Malthusian. Absolutely. I mean, clearly there were big supporters of it.
And I would like to remind you that many trans activists already make places unsafe. Just look at the front page of Redux today. And a lot of trans activists have been found to be predators. So their threat does not ring hollow. And again, one more time, a reminder that Trump policies do not prevent any of these people from dressing this way, looking this way. They just can no longer use the bathroom in federal spaces that they choose to. They have to use their actual biological sex bathroom, and they can only just not do this to minors. So what they're voting for is the free right to do this to children. That's it. And why do they want to do this? And again, it's based on a Dutch study that had not only a high death rate and a high suicide rate and a high dropout rate, but that study guessed that trans people would feel better if they had made these changes to their bodies earlier. So that's why they advocate doing it for children. And when children transition, they actually have a higher suicide rate. So that's what they're advocating for. But for these adults, do whatever you want. They can dress like this. They are not an oppressed group. That's what I have to say.
Exactly. Well, imagine going to school internship fair and seeing the most evil organization in the world has a booth set up there. Like you're thinking about career day, you're thinking about getting a summer internship, and then you see a CIA booth at your internship fair. How would you like your child to be an intern at the CIA this summer? Well, that's exactly what's was about to happen at NYU in New York City until students got wind of it. And the CIA, it only took 10 students, by the way, to hold a successful rally outside the internship fair, criticizing NYU for inviting the CIA to set up a booth at this internship fair. The agency was originally set to attend, but then they quietly pulled out. And they said, quote, "We are unable to attend." Unable, you're lying again, of course. You do that for a living. You're even lying about an internship. You're now suddenly unable to attend because some people protested it. No, you got scared and you're leaving. You don't want the backlash from it. So a group of students from NYU, Students for a Democratic Society, launched a petition, protest calling for the school to rescind the invitation. Their argument is that the agency's history of foreign interventions, destroying countries, regime change operations. You could also add assassinations of sitting presidents like John F. Kennedy as other reasons. We don't want you to come to our school internship program. We're okay with that. Apparently, a lot of students agreed because the petition took off and gained some serious traction. So the CIA backed down, lied. They said they're unable to attend. And the whole situation, of course, highlights a bigger conversation. Should the intelligence community be recruiting students at universities?
Well, how else are they going to hire?
I don't know. I mean, post a job on Indeed. I don't know.